They say silence is power, that by withdrawing you force her to chase. But what if I told you she's not chasing? What if your silence isn't affecting her the way you think? In fact, she's using it against you, regaining control, shifting the power, and mastering a game you don't even realize you're playing. This isn't just about relationships. This is about understanding the ancient Stoic principles of emotional control, strategy, and self-mastery, principles that have allowed the strongest minds in history to dominate without ever raising their voice. The truth? The more you withdraw out of reaction, the more power you lose. Because true control isn't about who speaks first or who stays silent longer. It's about who holds their ground without being moved. Right now you think your silence is making her rethink, but she's using it to build resilience, to detach, to emerge stronger than before. And unless you understand the real Stoic way to reclaim power, you'll find yourself in the weakest position of all, waiting. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'll reveal the timeless Stoic strategy to take back control, permanently. Number 1, the silent trap. Why ignoring her isn't giving you the upper hand. Silence. You think it's your greatest weapon. You believe that by withdrawing, by pulling back, you're making her chase, that she's sitting there questioning everything, wondering where you've gone, feeling the weight of your absence. But what if I told you that's not happening? What if instead of weakening her, your silence is making her stronger? Here's the brutal truth. Ignoring her doesn't give you control. It gives her clarity. The more you pull away thinking you're creating uncertainty, the more she adapts. She shifts. She regains emotional balance. Because real strength, true Stoic power, isn't about reacting. It's about mastering yourself so completely that no one else's actions determine your state of mind. And while you sit there, waiting for her to break, she's not breaking. She's evolving. The Stoic truth behind power and control. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But most people misinterpret this. They believe control comes from forcing reactions in others, through silence, distance, or absence. They think by withholding their attention they dictate how someone else feels. That's not power. That's dependence. A man who truly understands Stoicism doesn't use silence as a weapon. He doesn't play games hoping for a reaction. He stands firm, unshaken by what the other person does. Because real control isn't about manipulating someone's emotions, it's about ensuring your own emotions remain untouchable. The hidden psychology of silence. When you withdraw to make her chase what's really happening, you're still attached. You're still waiting. Your silence isn't an act of strength. It's a test, a gamble, a plea for validation wrapped in the illusion of control. And the moment she doesn't respond the way you expect, you start to break. You check your phone. You analyze her actions. You wonder, why isn't she reaching out? Why isn't this working? That's the paradox of forced silence. The more you use it to gain power, the more power you actually give away. Because now your emotions are completely tied to her response. A Stoic man doesn't play these games. He doesn't pull away hoping she follows. He remains centered, indifferent to the outcome, and focused on what truly matters. His own mastery, his own purpose, his own path, breaking free from the trap. So what's the real way to regain control? It's not through silence, it's through detachment. Not the kind that's cold, bitter, or defensive, but the kind that says, I do not need to play games to prove my value. The kind that understands power isn't about who contacts who first, who wins the battle of indifference. It's about who can walk away without looking back, because they know their worth isn't dependent on anyone else's attention. When you master yourself, when you stop reacting, stop waiting, stop hoping for an outcome, you naturally shift the dynamic. Not by force, but by presence. A presence so grounded in its own strength that it commands respect without a word. And that's where real power lies. How she's flipping the script, turning your silence into her strength. Now that you understand why ignoring her isn't the answer, the next step is realizing how she's using it to her advantage. Because while you think you're in control, she's adapting, growing, and shifting the power back in her favor. Stay with me, Because what I'm about to reveal next will completely change how you see this. Number 2, how she's flipping the script, turning your silence into her strength. You thought she'd break. You thought she'd panic, wondering why you've gone silent, but instead, she's growing. She's adapting. While you sit there waiting for her to reach out, she's learning how to live without you. And the longer this silence stretches, the more she realizes she doesn't need to chase. She doesn't need to beg. She doesn't even need to react. She's flipping the script. What you thought would make her crumble is making her stronger. Because here's the truth. When you use silence as a tool for control, you assume the other person will suffer without your presence. But a woman with even a shred of self-respect? She won't break. She'll rebuild. She'll take that space and turn it into growth, perspective, and emotional resilience. The Stoic principle of adaptation. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That's exactly what she's doing. Instead of reacting to your absence, she's reinterpreting it. Instead of waiting, she's adjusting. Instead of dwelling, she's detaching. You think your silence is creating uncertainty? In reality, it's giving her clarity. Because now she's seeing things differently. She's realizing that if your only move is withdrawal, then maybe you were never as strong as she thought. Maybe your power wasn't real power. It was just a game. Why emotional control always wins? The reason this strategy backfires is simple. The person who needs to manipulate emotions has already lost control of their own. A truly powerful person, man or woman, doesn't need to win through forced silence. They win by being so emotionally self-sufficient that external actions don't shake them, and now that's exactly what she's becoming. She's learning that silence isn't something to fear, it's something to master. She's learning that her happiness doesn't come from your presence, it comes from her mindset. And the second she fully embraces that, the dynamic shifts completely. Because now, she's no longer looking for answers in you. She's finding them within herself. The moment you lose control, here's where things take a turn. If she internalizes this lesson deeply enough, she won't just stop chasing, she'll stop caring. She won't just move on, she'll evolve. And when she reaches that state, your silence doesn't mean power anymore. It means irrelevance. At first you held the cards, now she's rewritten the entire game. So what do? How do you stop this from happening? It starts with understanding the real way to regain control. Because it's not about silence, it's about presence. The kind that commands respect without needing to manipulate. And in the next section, I'll show you exactly how to do that. Stoic power play, why true control comes from mastery, not absence. Now that you see how she's using your silence to grow stronger, it's time to learn the real path to power. Because true control isn't about withdrawal, it's about self-mastery. And the moment you grasp this, everything changes. Stay with me, because the next part is where real strength is built. Number 3, Stoic power play, why true control comes from mastery, not absence. You think control comes from withholding, that by pulling back you dictate the flow of power. But real control, true Stoic dominance, has nothing to do with absence. It has everything to do with presence. Not the kind that begs, not the kind that chases, but the kind that stands firm, unshaken, untouchable. Because here's the reality. Silence alone is not power. It's a gamble, a reaction. And a man who reacts is a man who is not in control. A Stoic understands that true dominance isn't about who speaks first, who reaches out, or who disappears longest. It's about who masters themselves so completely that external forces no longer dictate their state of mind. The man who controls himself controls the situation. The Stoic principle of inner fortitude. Seneca once wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That's the essence of power, not in what you withhold, but in what you command within. Because when you rely on silence to shift power, you're not really in control. You're simply hoping she reacts the way you want. You're still dependent on her response, her validation, her emotional investment. That's not strength. That's weakness disguised as strategy. A man in control doesn't need to play games because he is the game. His value is felt whether he speaks or stays silent. His presence alone demands respect, not because he forces it, but because he embodies it. Why mastery outranks absence every time. The mistake most men make? They focus on withholding rather than building. They believe that by taking something away, attention, time, presence, they gain power. But the reality? Power is never about what you subtract, it's about what you possess. And the strongest possession you can have, mastery over your mind. A woman doesn't respect a man who plays games. She respects the man who is so grounded in his own strength, so consumed by his mission, that he becomes a force of nature, someone she cannot manipulate, shake, or control. That's the kind of presence that commands attention without asking for it. From absence to authority. So if silence isn't the key, what is presence? But not just any presence, one rooted in absolute self-mastery. Instead of pulling away to create mystery, become a man so intriguing that mystery forms naturally. Instead of waiting for her to react, move forward relentlessly with or without her response. Instead of playing the game, elevate to a level where the game no longer matters. That is the Stoic power play. Not silence, not absence, but an unshakable presence that needs no validation. And that's where the real shift happens. The hidden psychology of power shifts, and why you might be losing. Now that you understand that real control comes from mastery, not withdrawal, it's time to dive even deeper. Because whether you realize it or not, the power dynamic is always shifting. And if you don't understand how, you're already losing. Stay with me, because in the next section we'll uncover the unseen forces shaping every interaction, and how to position yourself as the one in control. Number 4. The hidden psychology of power shifts and why you might be losing. Power is never static. It moves, shifts, and evolves, often without you even realizing it. You might believe you're in control, that your silence or withdrawal is tipping the balance in your favor. But what if instead of gaining power, you're slowly giving it away? This is where most men lose without even knowing they're playing. They assume that by ignoring, by pulling back, they create tension. And in some cases they do. But power isn't just about who disappears first. It's about who remains unshaken, unaffected, and ultimately in control of the frame. The psychology of power in relationships. There's an undeniable truth in human dynamics. The person who cares less holds the power. But there's a critical nuance here. It's not about pretending to care less. It's about actually being indifferent to the outcome. That's the distinction between manipulation and mastery. You see, if your silence is just a move, a strategy to provoke a reaction, then you still care too much. You're still emotionally invested, and ironically, this makes you the weaker one. Because real power doesn't come from forcing someone's response. It comes from being so secure in yourself that no response is needed. How you lose power without realizing it. The moment you start waiting for her reaction, checking if she notices your absence or hoping she reaches out first, you've already lost. Because in that instant, she dictates your emotional state. This is the silent trap most men fall into. They mistake withdrawal for dominance when, in reality, they are still attached, still seeking validation through absence rather than presence. And the more she senses this, the more power she gains. Power shifts when one person remains unmoved while the other becomes reactive. The more emotionally invested you are, the more control you surrender. And once she realizes that your silence is just a game, a tactic rather than a true reflection of your detachment, she stops playing. She moves forward and you're left waiting. The Stoic mindset, reclaiming your power. The great Stoics knew this truth well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the core of true power, not in controlling others, but in controlling yourself. The shift happens when you stop reacting and start being, when you stop waiting and start living. A Stoic man never places his sense of power in someone else's hands. He doesn't seek to manipulate emotions, he masters his own. How to reverse the power dynamic. If you've lost power, whether in silence or in action, the only way to regain it is to detach completely, not just from the person, but from the need for control itself. Stop playing the game. If your silence is a tactic, drop it. True power comes from an internal shift, not an external one. Detach from the outcome. Whether she comes back or not is irrelevant. What matters is that you remain unshaken. Redirect your energy. Invest in your purpose, your mission, your growth. A man who is truly on his path has no time to calculate responses. Beyond silence, the secret Stoic weapon that commands true respect. If silence isn't enough, what is? In the next section, we'll uncover the deeper Stoic strategy that commands respect effortlessly, not through absence, but through an undeniable presence. Number 5. Beyond silence, the secret Stoic weapon that commands true respect. Silence may create distance, it may even create mystery. But does it truly command respect? Not always. Because respect isn't given to the man who simply disappears. It's given to the man who stands firm, unshaken, and resolute in his presence. A man whose strength isn't defined by what he withholds, but by what he embodies. This is the deeper Stoic weapon that most overlook, and if you master it, you'll never need to play games again. The true foundation of respect, self-sufficiency. Seneca once wrote, "A man is as miserable as he thinks himself." In other words, your internal state determines your power, not the external tactics you employ. A man who is truly in control doesn't seek validation through manipulation. He doesn't need silence as a weapon, because his very existence commands attention. This is the key. A man who is fully self-sufficient, mentally, emotionally, and purposefully, is naturally respected. His presence alone carries weight because he is not seeking approval, attention, or reaction. He simply is. What this looks like in action. 1. You lead without force. A weak man demands respect. A strong man earns it through action, consistency, and an unwavering sense of self. 2. You speak with purpose. A man of value doesn't waste words. When he speaks, he does so with intention, clarity, and conviction. And because of this, people listen. 3. You are driven by purpose, not emotion. Instead of reacting, you remain composed. Instead of chasing, you move forward. A Stoic man channels his energy into his mission, not into emotional battles. Why this commands more power than silence. When you rely on silence alone, you're still dependent on someone noticing your absence. But when you embody unwavering self-sufficiency, you become magnetic. People notice you without you trying. They don't respect you because you disappeared. They respect you because your presence holds value. And that is the ultimate Stoic power play. The final shift, becoming the unshakable man she can't ignore. Now that you understand why true respect comes from presence, not absence, it's time for the final transformation. In the next section, we'll break down the exact mindset shifts that make you untouchable, where respect, attraction, and control become effortless. Stay with me, because this is where you step into your highest form. Number 6, breaking free. How to stop playing a game that keeps you weak. You've been conditioned to believe that relationships, whether romantic, social, or professional, are a game. That power is about moves and counter-moves, silence versus pursuit, control versus surrender. But here's the truth. The moment you engage in the game, you've already lost, because a man who plays games is a man who lacks true control. He's still reacting, still seeking, still tethered to the outcome. And as long as you're trapped in that cycle, you'll remain weak, waiting for a reaction, hoping for validation, measuring your worth by someone else's response. The illusion of power. Why games keep you weak. You think you're winning when you ignore her. You think you're in control when she reaches out first. But ask yourself this: if you were truly powerful, would you need a strategy to be respected? Epictetus said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." The real suffering comes not from losing someone, but from the attachment to the game itself. Because as long as you play, you're trapped. You're reacting, not leading. You're operating from fear, not strength. And you're dependent on an outcome that is outside your control. How to break free and reclaim your power. 1. Detach from the outcome. Stop waiting for a reaction. Stop measuring your worth by how someone responds. A Stoic man lives by principle, not by external validation. 2. Shift from reaction to purpose. Power isn't about who ignores who. It's about who is so focused on their own path that they don't need to engage in games at all. 3. Become unshakable. A truly powerful man doesn't withhold to manipulate. He embodies presence, certainty, and purpose without needing permission or response. The final shift, elevating beyond the game. You don't win by playing better. You win by leaving the game behind entirely. When you stop seeking control and start mastering yourself, everything changes. Now the question is, are you ready to step into that version of yourself? The unshakable Stoic mindset, becoming a man of absolute presence. In the final section, we'll break down the last transformation, where respect, power, and influence come effortlessly, without the need for tactics or games. This is the final step. Stay with me. Number 7. The art of influence, reclaiming power without a single word. True influence isn't loud, it isn't forceful, and it doesn't rely on tactics, tricks, or carefully crafted moves. The most powerful men in history, leaders, philosophers, warriors, commanded respect and influence without needing to demand it. Why? Because influence is not about what you say, it's about what you embody. Why words don't create power, presence does. Most men believe that control is about action, saying the right things, making the right moves, withdrawing at the right time. But real power isn't in action, it's in being. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." A man of influence doesn't need to convince others of his worth. His presence alone makes it clear. His energy, his composure, his purpose. These are the silent forces that shift the dynamics of power. How to command respect without speaking. 1. Master your energy. If your presence is anxious, needy, or reactive, people feel it. But when you carry yourself with certainty, others instinctively respond with respect. 2. Detach from approval. A man who doesn't need validation gains influence effortlessly. The less you seek approval, the more people feel drawn to earn yours. 3. Move with purpose. People follow those who are going somewhere. The man who is driven, who walks with direction, who is too focused on his mission to be distracted, he is the one who naturally commands respect. Beyond words, becoming an unshakable presence. If you truly want power, stop looking for ways to take it. Instead, become the kind of man who naturally holds it. Speak less. Let your actions and presence communicate your strength. Stop trying to control others. Control yourself and influence will follow. Don't demand respect. Become the man who earns it without asking. The ultimate Stoic power shift. You've now seen the deeper truth. Power isn't about tactics, it's about presence. And the man who masters himself, his mind, his emotions, his purpose, automatically becomes the most powerful force in any room. Number 8. From reactive to untouchable, how to become the Stoic force no one can shake. Most men live in reaction. They react to texts, to silence, to emotions, to approval, or the lack of it. But a Stoic force? He doesn't react, he doesn't chase, he doesn't crumble. He stands, immovable, unshaken by others, unbothered by the uncontrollable. And because of that, he holds the ultimate power. The question is, how do you become that man? Why reactivity is weakness. The moment you react emotionally, you surrender control. If someone's silence makes you anxious, they have power over you. If rejection shakes your confidence, you were never truly confident. If you need someone else's response to feel validated, your value is dependent on them, not you. This is why Marcus Aurelius warned, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The Stoic shift, moving from reaction to mastery. 1. Control your mind before it controls you. The first step to becoming unshakable? Detachment. Stop assigning meaning to things beyond your control. She didn't reply? Fine. They doubted you? Let them. None of it affects your core. 2. Never let emotions dictate your actions. Feel anger, feel rejection, observe it, don't act on it. The ability to sit with discomfort without reacting is what makes a man truly powerful. So ground yourself in a purpose greater than approval. A man who is driven by his mission cannot be shaken by petty games. He has no time for drama, only progress. Becoming the untouchable force. If you want to stop being reactive, you must build something within yourself that no one can take away. A mindset so strong that no silence, rejection, or insult can shake you. A presence so firm that people respect it without you demanding it. A purpose so deep that approval becomes meaningless. This is what makes you truly powerful. Not strategies, not games, absolute self-mastery. Walking as a Stoic, living as a force. Now the choice is yours. Will you keep playing the game, reacting, waiting, hoping? Or will you become the kind of man who stands unshaken? A force so powerful that the world moves around him, not the other way around. Power isn't in silence, it isn't in reaction. And it sure as hell isn't in playing games. True power is in mastery of your mind, your emotions, and your purpose. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The man who understands this becomes untouchable. He doesn't chase, doesn't crumble, and doesn't waver. He stands firm because he is built from within, not dependent on anything external. If you take one thing from this, let it be this: stop trying to control others. Control yourself and everything else will follow. Now it's your move. What's the biggest mindset shift you've had after watching this? Drop a comment below, I want to hear your thoughts. And if you're ready to take this even deeper, watch this video next, where I break down the ultimate Stoic mindset shift that will make you completely unshakable in life, relationships, and success. Until next time, remember, power isn't taken, it's earned through mastery.